And welcome, Hoosier fans, to this week's edition of Assembly Call Radio, where each week we discuss the most important IU basketball stories from the past 7 days. This is our 108th edition of Assembly Call Radio, and it is our 469th episode overall of the Assembly Call, recorded on the evening of Thursday, January 17th, 2018. I am your host, Jared Morris. And let's begin this edition of the Assembly Call how we begin every edition of the Assembly Call, and that is with our Hoosier Proud banner moment.
And Indiana is the national champion.
When it comes down, Indiana will be champion.
Smart takes the shot.
The Hoosiers have won the national championship.
So, let's be frank here. This has not exactly been a week rampant with daydreams about a sixth banner, because no matter which camp of IU fan you fall into, from those wearing the most crimson-shaded glasses to the vocal minority of irrational nincompoops who already seem prepared to reboot and start over, there is one thing we can all agree on. The effort and focus levels we saw on Monday night were completely unacceptable. Full stop. No nuance necessary there. So I hope you'll understand why I don't feel the need to stretch our shared credulity to its breaking point by trying to convince you that anything the current team has shown us this week moved us a step closer to banner number 6. I won't do it. But I do absolutely hope and expect that the way this team responds over the next week will get us right back on that track. In the meantime, let's turn our attention to the future for this week's banner moment and issue kudos to Indiana's class of 2019 signees Trace Jackson Davis and Armon Franklin, each of whom made the list of nominees for the McDonald's All-American game. And while the cynical among us might scoff and remind me that over 800 players nationwide are nominees, I'll happily scoff right back and remind them that being one of 800 still puts Trace and Armon somewhere in the top 1% of all high school basketball players nationwide, so it's certainly worth congratulating them for. Trace and Armon represent the future of Indiana basketball, and from everything we've learned about them, they will likely be very good players at Indiana and outstanding representatives of our program and university. This has been a dark week for IU basketball in terms of on-court play, no question about it, but the future remains bright, and yes, the trajectory of the program does indeed remain positive, even if a ratings-mad local shock jock desperately begs you to believe otherwise. Okay, now let me introduce my esteemed co-host for this week's show. To my left, he is the Tim Miles of Girls Youth Sports Coaching in Cincinnati. He's the president emeritus of the Robert Johnson Fan Club, and he is a world-renowned bracketologist.
Bottoms looms over other bracketologists the way 7'3" Kristaps Porzingis looms over point guards.
He is Andy Bottoms. Andy, what is your Bottoms line from the last week in Indiana basketball?
Man, didn't you use Sean Payton last week right before he beat the Eagles? Now Tim Miles. I mean, if you want to find people who are beating teams that I root for, that is not a difficult task. So we're going to
turn that around, though. We're going to turn that around.
No shortage of options for you, I'm sure. This week has been, if you think about the games that IU has played since we last did the radio show, at least, it's been weird. It's probably the best way to say it. It's been, the great start at Maryland gave way to a loss that, as Maryland continues to really surge, makes you feel like it was a really good win that IU could have had and kind of let get away. And then, but I think you can reconcile that one a little bit in your mind and take the positive away from it. As you go back and look on the game from Monday, that still feels pretty hard to do, even a few days removed from it. I know a lot of times we get on here and at least, have the perspective of a couple days. And, it's just hard not to look back at the issues in that game and the effort and those kinds of things really from the beginning. I think if you want to look at the injuries and some of the things like that, where guys are playing a lot of minutes and getting worn down, you would think that would impact you more at the end of the game after, the grind of the first, 35 minutes is gone and then the energy wanes a little bit at the end. It was disconcerting, I guess, to put it mildly, how the team came out. That being said, I think, you guys had Dustin Dopirak on podcast on the Brink this week. And he, one of the things he mentioned, and Archie really mentioned in the postgame, was that effort hasn't been, it hasn't been a consistent drumbeat for the team this season in terms of an issue. So hopefully we look back on this and it does look like just a blip, but that's, if there's anything about the week that's been a little bit hard to shake for me, it's really been that energy level and that kind of the lack of focus at the beginning of the game that, really did IU in. They never were able to truly challenge in that game, it felt like. So, they've certainly had a lot of time to think about it, as have any of us. And so hopefully that's something that motivates them to come out and play well on Saturday. Because as we, I feel like we say this every week, but the schedule, just keeps looking tougher and tougher as you go down the line, and for the next 5 on the road. So hopefully they can get off to a decent start at Purdue.
And to my right, he is a columnist for The Big Lead and a co-host of The Hangover, and due to his recent antagonizing of the IU fan base and Assembly Call listeners, he has recently fallen all the way to 12th in the chat mob fan vote for the upcoming Assembly Call All-Star broadcast.
Indiana fans have a reputation nationally of being ridiculous.
Ryan, what do you have to rant about this week?
I never said anything about the chat mob. You're putting words in my mouth.
No,
there,
you
Morris.
dangled a little nugget of information and then pulled it away. And they're still harboring ill will about that.
It wasn't anything, guys. Don't worry. The kind of thing, though, if I repeat it on here, we'd probably get sued and the show would probably go away. So, you're going to have to weigh it. What I will say is a certain ratings mad Indiana radio host who is, by the way, a huge fan of this show. I don't know if you know that. He's always been a big fan of the show. Went on air and basically said Archie Miller is horrible and all this stuff. And let me just give you a rundown of Dan Dakich as a head coach in college basketball. In 10 years at Bowling Green, he never reached an NCAA tournament. Not once. He went 156 and 140. He went 89 and 89 in the MAC and won one conference championship, it appears. Yeah, that's it. That's what he did at Bowling Green. His last 2 years, he went 22 and 39. And then he took over an Indiana team that Kelvin Sampson had gone 22 and 4 with. Pretty good team, yeah? Dan Dakich went 3 and 4 and bowed out in the first round of the NCAA tournament. So forgive me.
There's probably a nuanced explanation for that, I'm sure.
I was going to say that one was
looking at Dakich's
conventional wisdom can be applied to that scenario.
Yeah, but looking at Dakich's track record, I'm going to go out on a limb and fully blame him for this, okay? Because it's not exactly like he was good at his job at Bowling Green. He was there 10 years and never did anything at Bowling Green except for won he was first in the conference one year in 1999, and he lasted until 2007. This is a guy who thinks he's a genius as far as basketball is concerned. Now, look, he was an excellent player at IU during his time. He had some big moments and all that, and I respect the hell out of that. But for him to talk about it like he is the czar of coaching and he knows what's right. This is a guy who wanted Steve Alford to be IU's head coach and fought hard for it, and was a shill for Steve Alford, who was then canned by UCLA this year, a year and a half later, okay, because he was terrible at his job. So if you're going to sit here and rip on a head coach, yet not offer any criticism of your boy Alford, shut up. Sit down and shut up. You can be critical of the team. You can be critical of the coach. But the way he went off on Archie Miller was unhinged and just ridiculous. Like, it just did not come to the level of sanity that you should expect from people you listen to. So, Dan Dakich, you have a radio show. God bless. Do whatever you want. But if you're going to wade into that territory of ripping and frankly insulting a coach and a program when you let your boy Alford walk free for years while he was ruining UCLA, don't expect no pushback. That was insane. That rant was legitimately insane. And I think somebody slipped something into his water that day. I would say that if a normal person said that, but this has just become Dakich's MO, and it's ridiculous and stupid. And anybody who pays attention to a word that guy says when it comes to judging coaches, he flip-flopped on Tom Crean like 40 times. So really, honestly, I nobody should pay attention to what he says. That's end rant.
Okay, agreed. All right, here's what we're going to talk about this week. We'll go over some keys to victory in Mackey on Saturday. Then we'll explore some ways for Indiana to become more dynamic and hopefully deep on offense. We'll discuss the social media impact that irrational, unreasonable fans may not be taking into account, but should. And then we will answer your questions. All of that coming this week on Assembly Call Radio. Before we do that, let's talk real quick about sleep.
Go to bed.
Although not yet. Don't go to bed yet until the show's over. But specifically, let's talk about how to improve your sleep, which might mean getting a mattress that is custom designed and satisfaction guaranteed specifically for you, your body, and the way you like to sleep. And our friends at Comfort Option are committed to helping you do this. If you live in Indianapolis or Bloomington, Comfort Option will literally bring their mobile mattress store to your house and design a mattress for you right there on the spot. And one of the best elements of this program has always been the incredible 30-90 satisfaction guarantee. Basically, they give you 30 days to try your new mattress, and if you don't like it, they'll take the next 90 days to reconstruct it to your satisfaction. Still don't like it after that? They'll take it back and refund your money, which sounds too good to be true, but only because no other mattress companies have ever been bold enough and confident enough to offer such a guarantee. But Comfort Option is. And the fine folks at Comfort Option, they are IU grads and IU fans just like us. They've got your back even if you live outside of Indy or Bloomington. And they do this with their Alpha mattress, which they ship direct anywhere in the U.S., cutting out the middleman and saving you money. And get this, Comfort Option recently extended their 30-90 satisfaction guarantee to the Alpha mattress. So even if they ship it to you in, say, San Diego or Cincinnati, you'll still have 30 days to try it, 90 days to request a reconstruction, and your satisfaction is guaranteed or they take it back and refund your money.
Boom. Over. Done.
So go to comfortoption.com right now and either order your Alpha mattress or schedule your in-home mattress store service today. And when you do it, use the promo code ASSEMBLY to get $50 off your purchase. Again, comfortoption.com, promo code ASSEMBLY for $50 off. Get the mattress that's right for you. Don't leave your sleep to chance. It's too important.
We want you to live.
Yes, we do. All right, now back to the show. Andy, let's look ahead to Saturday's big game against Purdue. Big in a number of ways. All IU Purdue games are big, but Indiana is on a 3-game losing streak. They've got another road game and then a game against Michigan staring them in the face. So, this is a game, if they can find a way to win, would obviously be huge. What do you think are some of the key? Let's state right off the bat. The biggest key, the first key, is the energy, effort, and the focus have to be better. That's got to be back to even put us in the ball game. Because if we come out and sleepwalk through this game, we're going to get blown out by 30, and it's going to be ugly. I think we all expect the effort, the focus, and the energy to be much better. So what are maybe some tactical things Indiana needs to do to give themselves a chance on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, Purdue's going to come in with a lot of confidence. They played really well to get a win at Wisconsin and then just blew the doors off of Rutgers this week, which is not a huge accomplishment. But when you consider, Rutgers had just beaten Ohio State a week ago, I think that's certainly a positive thing. So they come in with a lot of confidence. Carson Edwards is definitely the guy to watch, obviously. But I also think it's another case of, I'm not sure that you're going to completely shut him down at any point. So it's really more of a focus on, making him be inefficient and trying to, force guys around him to make plays. Quite honestly, a little bit of the way that the teams are defending IU of late, trying to, knowing that Romeo and Juwan are going to probably get theirs and making it hard on them. And then, trying to force other guys to beat you. So if you look at a couple guys, I think, limiting Ryan Klein's looks from 3-point range is a big one to really not help off of him too much and be able to get back out a 40+% 3-point shooter. That's the kind of game guy goes out and knocks in a couple threes, the crowd really gets into it and things like that. So, that's a little bit of, closing out on shooters and those kinds of things. He's one you got to be close to. And then Travion Williams has really been a revelation of late for them. Inside 6'9" guy that's really come into his own over the past 3 games. Had not played a ton, but has played 20+ minutes in the last 3 games and has acquitted himself really well in all those. 13 against Michigan State, 9 against Wisconsin, and 16 against Rutgers. So I think they've found a little bit of something there, and he's helped them get some momentum coming in. So I think Edwards is really the big one. They're not a team that turns the ball over a lot, but they do have a pretty high offensive rebounding rate, and we've seen IU over these last couple games really get victimized, particularly against Maryland, but even a little bit at times against Nebraska. So that's an area they've really got to shore up. But I do think Purdue's not as good defensively as they've been in the past. So I do think there's some opportunities and some matchups that would be favorable to IU. But it'll be any game against Purdue at Mackey, regardless of the teams and the records and how everybody looks, is going to be a tough one. But I think if they can find ways to limit the supporting cast and again kind of treat Purdue a little bit the way that IU's been treated defensively of late, would be a really good start.
Yeah, and look, I think you do have to try and limit the supporting cast. You also either have to make Carson Edwards inefficient and force turnovers, or just hope that he is. He's obviously going to force some shots. You have to hope that some of those don't go, that it's maybe one of his 2-for-9 games from downtown with 5 turnovers. Because when they've lost, he'll get his points, but he'll be inefficient getting them, and he'll turn it over. You mentioned Travion Williams. We don't know what Deron Davis's health is. If he's able to, we've said this, a couple weeks in a row now, but if he's able to come give you 10, 15 minutes, Williams only plays about 20 to 22 minutes a game, but he's become a really big piece of what they do offensively. So maybe if you can have Deron come play him for half of those minutes, and then, he doesn't shoot free throws well, maybe you throw Clifton Moore or Jake Forrester in there for a few minutes and just hack him, put him at the free throw line, save some of those fouls on Juwan, give him a little bit of a rest. But Indiana's going to have to find an answer there. And then, Andy, the other thing that really jumped out when I looked at the games that Purdue has lost, and they've lost 6 games this year, and I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing for Indiana, but really the way that you take advantage of Purdue defensively has been from the three-point line. They allow a lot of three-pointers. 44.6% of shots taken against Purdue this year have been threes. That's 324th in the country. And they allow a high percentage. Teams are shooting 37.3% against them, which is 303rd. And so if you look at the 6 losses, teams went 10 of 24, 8 of 28, 13 of 26, 11 of 25, 11 of 21, 9 of 27. So overall, every team made at least 8 threes, shot at least 21, and on average they shot 41%. But you look at Indiana has made 8 threes in only 6 out of 17 games, and they've taken 21 or more threes in only 4 of 17 games. So, one of the things that we'll talk about in the next segment, Andy, is I think this is a game where Indiana, if Justin Smith is open, he's going to need to let it fly. Rob Finney is going to have to get back to being confident shooting that 3. Hopefully Al Durham is healthy, ready to go. They're going to need him out there. I think this is a game, both because of the opportunities Purdue is likely to present and what Indiana needs to do to space the floor, especially given what we saw Nebraska do to us offensively. I think Indiana might need to use the 3 a little bit more liberally in the offense. I don't know if it'll happen, but this seems like a game where it would really help. And maybe you miss them, and if you do, you're probably going to lose. But I feel like you give yourself the best chance to win if maybe you find yourself 4, 5, 6 more good looks and just let them fly. Thoughts? Andy?
Was Andy going there?
Oh, I thought we were letting Ryan talk again. This was too long to let him not speak, so I just
go ahead, Andy. You are my hero. Go right ahead, buddy.
that was an odd statement.
What a weird comment.
Yeah. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I think it's funny because you call out those stats and you to think that IU a good performance is going to hinge on 3-point shooting probably makes people cringe a little bit. But it's it's one of those where we've talked about this before, that as a percentage, IU's not shooting great, but they're not shooting incredibly poor. They're ranked 130th in 3-point percentage in the country. So certainly not the best, but so they're going to get those shots, and that's the one thing that has become abundantly clear with the way they've been defended lately. I mean, guys are going to get shots that are not named Romeo and Juwan, and while there are certainly times that maybe those are ones you can pass up, I don't think this is going to be a game where you can be too passive. But they've got to get some confidence, because it was a little bit jarring to hear Archie even say after the game that there are guys that just don't have a lot of confidence in themselves. And I appreciate the candor for sure, but and you can see some of that on the court. It matches what you see, but they've got to find a way to get some of these guys back. And I think the things could snowball pretty quickly if they really start to go well. It's just a matter of not falling behind, maybe make a couple shots early, and I don't think it would take too many shots to make a team defend them a little bit differently. I think it's hard for college teams in particular to really have that level of focus on the game plan where they say, hey, I'm gonna pack it in off of everybody else, and the guy makes a couple of shots, and that you really are that you stick to it that much and really don't make adjustments at that point, or don't just naturally make adjustments.
I have one comment on this game, and I think this game is way more about IU fixing itself than worrying about Purdue. I really do. I think that this team just needs some kind of boost and to find some kind of boost somewhere. And whether it's 3-point shooting, whether it's somebody off the bench just providing energy and just waking everybody up or what, I don't know what it is, but this team just needs something to get it out of its funk, because they're in a funk right now. And that, the way they showed up on Monday tells you that. And I don't know if it's the injuries. I don't know if guys are tired. I don't know what it is, but they're just dragging right now. And they need something, some kind of good news to wake them up. And if they can get that, I think they can beat Purdue, because I think Purdue is a decent team. I don't think they're a great team. And I think they've got a great player in Carson Edwards. But other than that, I'm nothing really scares me, except for, as Andy mentioned, is Ryan Klein standing out at the 3-point line unguarded. That's really it. And so I would say that Indiana really just needs something to wake it up and refocus it. And I think they'll be fine. But this is a game also I think Juwan Morgan's going to need to go big in.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, coming up on the Assembly Call, we try to figure out some ways for Indiana to find more scoring outside of Romeo and Juwan. What are the numbers at Synergy tell us about Indiana's catch-and-shoot ability, some other strengths of other players that maybe we haven't talked about? We're going to talk about all of that next. Stick with us. All right, and a new record for longest segment ever, 20 minutes and 40 seconds. Very nice. Well done, gentlemen. Hello to everybody who is watching live. Good to see you all. I see that our live numbers are a little bit down now. I'm sure probably people are dropping off with every loss, but that's okay. This just shows us who the real fans are. That's what we like to see. By the way, I saw someone comment earlier about how, Dakich is paid to rile people up, so don't take it so seriously and all of that stuff. I don't buy that. Obviously, he is paid to get people to listen to his show, but that doesn't mean that you lie and that you just, are just absolutely unhinged and being a hypocrite and just all of the things and exactly, and being an a-hole. Both from is he doing a good job running his show perspective? Because while that may get you a short-term bump, it's not going to work out for him in the long run. So, and it's just wrong. So anyway, I understand what you're saying, but I don't buy that. As someone who hosts a show, and I guess we could be more shock jockey, and I guess we could have harder takes, but that, to me, that's not how you actually discuss a team. That doesn't lead to actual reasonable discussion. You just rile up the fringes, and what does that actually do to the discourse?
More importantly, you throw your integrity out the window.
Yes, exactly.
Dan Dakich, I'm sorry, but this is 100% true. He fully believes he should have been named head coach in 2006. Permanent head coach in 2006. He fully believes that. And
that's not a totally unreasonable thing for him to think either.
Yes,
I don't think. I don't think so. I don't think it's an unreasonable thing for him to think.
I mean, sure, because he has confidence in himself that. But let me put it this way. Nobody else on earth that he's not related to believes he should have been named head coach in 2006. So I think that's fair to say as well.
Okay, I agree with that.
Well, somebody who resides outside a mental institution. Well, they have a caveat for that. But and that's why. And it's ridiculous. He's just ridiculous in general.
People are asking if I'm does this really look like a red onesie? I guess it does. Kind of look like a red onesie.
It looks like you're gonna go to the mall and play Santa after.
It's not. I mean, I'm gonna be very self-conscious for the rest of the show, so thank all of you. I really appreciate that. But no, it's not a red onesie. Now my face is gonna match the color of the shirt. Thanks.
Sorry, I said 2006. I meant 2008 when they hired Green. I apologize. Not 2006. Somebody corrected me.
Okay, so let me.
Well, probably 2006 as well. Who knows? He's insane. All right.
The last thing I'm going to say is, and I think you have to parse out these two things.
Wow.
I have a lot of respect for him as a player. I have a lot of respect for him when he coached at Indiana, and when he talks about those times, I listen. I have respect for his intellect basketball-wise. So when he's not talking about Indiana and he's just talking about the game and about coaching, I listen because he knows way more than I will ever know, and he provides insight there. As soon as he starts talking about the program, I have no respect because I think he's got an agenda, and I just don't trust anything that he says. So I don't buy this you've got to respect what he says because of all this other stuff. No, you have to respect what he says about those times because of that. That has nothing to do with the current team.
Wow. Jamil in the chat just said Ryan is the closest to a shock jock, but really just jock and no shock. So, okay, I'm fine. Thank you. The last part of that statement saved it for me. So thank you.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I think I've talked about this before, probably on a break or maybe it was off the air on some of the shows. It's funny to look at some of the parallels between he and Knight, who he at times is kind of tried to distance himself from. But what's funny is like a really, as you said, Jared, a really smart mind. Like a lot of people get upset when he's doing games and different things like that, but you do like learn things from him about parts of the game. You have to kind of work your way past some of the other stuff, but like he's insightful as an analyst in that regard. And then some of the other stuff though like overshadows that, but he also then a lot of the charitable things that he does, and it was kind of the same thing with Knight. He so big on like helping people like quit chewing tobacco and those kinds of things, and like encouraging people on there. Like you see that on Twitter, and it's funny because Knight was the same way, where he would do all these things that he charitable things, humanitarian type things at times that he didn't really want people to know about, and then it would just kind of some of the other antics would overshadow the positive things that are really out there.
It would ruin the good stuff, and that's what Dakich does, in my opinion. Is it ruins the good stuff, and there's plenty of good the guy does. I don't know him personally. I'm sure there are people who are super close with him and love him and say he's a great guy. I don't know him personally, but based on his radio show, I don't want to know him personally. I mean,
I base it only on his show, how he treats guests, and how he's treated me personally.
Yeah, he's treated this show like garbage. By the way, if you guys are in the chat and don't know that, he's said some horrible things about this show that were also completely false. So, like, didn't he say that like we were forcing people to pay to enter a pick'em contest or something like that, and that was BS? And
there was definitely something about charging people for something. I don't remember what it was.
Which, by the way, we weren't. Like 99. First of all, back then everything we did was 100% free, and now I think like 99.9% of what we do is free. So, and we never tell you have to sign up for this to listen to the show. We're giving this away for free because we enjoy doing it and we love you guys. So, I don't know.
Anyway, all right, enough about that.
Yep. Where do we go from here? Okay. Segment 2. This is the one that you, Andy, I'll kind of kick it over to you so you can lead us into this one.
Terrific. I have not looked at all at what you put together for it, but I at least know what I asked you, so we can go at it that way.
I've got some numbers.
All right.
So
excellent.
Ryan can snooze and sit back, and we'll get messages in the chat if Ryan's asleep, and it's all good.
Already is.
So that segment was longer, so we'll probably try and keep this one to like 12, 13 minutes, something like that. So I'll keep you updated in the chat.
I'll just keep watching the Michigan State game. They're up 7 now.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah, I heard James Palmer's like one for a large number shooting. I'm not sure. Oh, well.
Could have done that against us, James.
Yeah, he was fantastic. He was a guy that I had kind of like, I didn't really feel like I kind of got it when he was all Big Ten last year, but he does a lot for them, facilitating, rebounding, defending. I was more impressed than
I'm not sure I've ever been more wrong on a pregame preview than the IU Nebraska preview.
It was funny. I finally had gotten around to like listening to Banner Monday, but I didn't listen to the preview because although I did listen to the part where you were like, I really think Evan Fitzner is going to have a good game.
And he got his chances too. Like the chances I thought he was going to get, he got, and he just couldn't make them.
On Banner Monday, I winced through that projection because I was like, "Nah, I don't think so," but I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I
heard that, and then I didn't want to listen to find out if there was anything else that aged that poorly. So I just.
There is not one word from that preview that aged well. Just know that, not a word.
Right. I
torched the entire thing.
I skipped it entirely. So
I'm gonna go delete it from YouTube.
That's as you should.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Welcome back to the Assembly Call. You can find all of our content at our website, assemblycall.com. And if you ever want to participate in our unedited live broadcasts,
chat mobbers,
or watch those replays, then check out our YouTube channel. As esteemed chat mobber Chad once put it,
hearing the stuff in between, you get to know you guys a lot better.
Like the time Ryan tried to convince us that he's actually T.Y. Hilton in a hoodie.
I really wish I would have been at the NFL Combine because I think I could have clocked like a 4.5.
Really? Join us live at youtube.com/assemblycall. I'm Jared Morris here with Andy Bottoms and Ryan Phillips, and we're talking IU basketball as we do every week. And Andy, let me kind of kick this over to you because the idea for this segment came from you, an email that you sent earlier this week. I think we're all kind of trying to figure out answers offensively, especially in the wake of that Nebraska game. And so you kind of suggested that we do some. So why don't you kind of explain it, and then we'll get into some numbers.
All right. So my questions to you, there were really two questions, although one is, kind of a subset of the other. But, we talked so much on the show after the Nebraska game and really throughout the season of, supporting cast, who can be a third scorer, all those kinds of things. And we talked about how Nebraska was really sagging off of guys and just, basically daring people not named Juwan and Romeo to make shots. And so my initial question was just around, are there guys who are really doing well in catch and shoot situations? I mean, if defenses are going to pack it in the way that Nebraska did, are there opportunities for IU to, relocate guys on the perimeter, find guys they can kick out to and make shots? And then the second question was a bit more general, but really trying to figure out, again, how do you solve the third scorer type question? And it was really, what areas do guys other than Juwan and Romeo really excel, and what could or should IU do to help get those guys going and provide a little bit of support? So just really trying to see, where the sweet spot is for some of these guys to try to figure out, is there really something offensively that they can do, that they can change to take advantage of the things that people are doing well. And we've talked, I think I mentioned this in my email to you, we've talked so many times through the years about guys, do they know what they're doing when they're playing well? And are the coaches putting players in a position to succeed? So it felt like a good way to do that. Now, the downside of this question is that the answer might be, I don't know that there's anything that we can do with some of these guys, which I don't think the answer is. You've put together some numbers, so I'm hoping that the answer to the second question isn't just a large empty space, but that is the potential downside of asking a question like this, that you might get an answer that you don't want to hear.
So let's give Ryan a pop quiz here. Who do you think is the best on Indiana's roster in catch and shoot situations in terms of percentage? Just off the top of your head. I would tell you not to look at the notes, but you never do anyway. So
I see. I think my gut would tell me like Evan Fitzer, but I'm going to go with Juwan because I know he's hit a bunch of catch and shoot.
Juwan, in fact, by far. And we're talking about effective field goal percentage here, which obviously weights three-pointers higher. He is 17 for 34 overall, and his effective field goal percentage is 75%. Because most of the catch and shoot opportunities are 3-pointers. So you've got Juwan first at 75%.
I would guess Al Durham would be second because he gets that corner three a lot.
Yep, Al Durham is second.
This is the part where Ryan pretends that he's not reading from the notes, but he actually
I'm not actually.
I asked really on top of things.
I asked Jared to put it in the chat, and I haven't even opened it yet. So
we have no way to prove you wrong, but I
just clicked on it.
I strongly disagree. But anyway, continue.
Now, next is Zach McRoberts, but he's only taken 7. But last year, in 27 attempts, he was 10 of 27, effective field goal percentage 55.6. This year, he is 3 for 7. So, I mean, his percentage is good. You just got to shoot it, Zach.
The ball.
Shoot the ball. Yes. We speak on behalf of all IU fans, Zach. Shoot the ball. So, next you've got Rob Finnessy, 58.7%. Justin Smith, 55.6, but only 9 attempts. Evan Fitzner, 55% in 20 attempts. I went back and looked at him last year at St. Mary's. In 42 attempts, it was 57.1%. So percentage-wise, he's essentially right at where he's been. The problem is all the production came in 2 games, and his confidence has been so shot since. So, all numbers need context to mean anything. And then you've got the guys kind of bringing up the rear here. You've got Devontae Green, 40.4%. Contrasted with Devontae Green off the dribble, he's 7 of 26 on catch and shoot, 11 of 24 off the dribble, and a lot of those 11 are 3-pointers. So he's actually been pretty effective off the dribble. Demezi in limited attempts, 15 is 4 for 15. And the worst on the team is Romeo, who in 30 catch and shoot attempts is 8 for 30, 38.3%. So, you look at that, and I think a lot of people would say Juwan, Al has obviously been the most consistent. To me, what really stands out here are a couple of things, Andy. Number one, McRoberts needs to shoot more. Like, if he's going to be on the court, he has to at least shoot. Number one, because he's pretty good at it. And number two, he's got to at least be a threat so people respect it. And I think the same is true for Justin Smith. I think he's going to, he is a decent enough shooter that if he's wide open, he should shoot the ball. because he can make a decent percentage, and if nothing else, people are going to respect it. And then I think, you've got a guy like Rob Finney, who percentage-wise has been pretty good, but he just hasn't really looked at the basket much his last 2 games. And he's a guy who, before the injury, was really emerging as a scorer. And I think, who knows how long it'll take him to get back on that track and get comfortable. But he's another guy in those catch-and-shoot opportunities that can be really lethal, for a guy like Juwan passing out of the post. So what else do those numbers tell you?
Yeah, it's interesting because you look at those, and I will remind everyone those percentages that you said were effective field goal percentages. So again, giving extra weight for 3-pointers. So in case anybody didn't catch that the first time and they don't think that how is this team not winning because everybody's percentages sounds like they should be on the Golden State Warriors. Just wanted to call that out again. But I think what's interesting is, you look, it's just not a lot of opportunities given the kind of magnetism that Romeo and Juwan have on offenses. You would think that there's a lot of these shots to go around. And if you look at individual guys, Al's the only guy with over 26 that isn't, that's not. And even if you think about that, Al's got 30 of those. Now he's missed some games. I can't keep track anymore of who's missed what games and when, but that's really only like 2 shots a game in catch and shoot situation. We're 17 games in to the season. And so I think that's one thing where it's pretty evenly distributed, where you've got a lot of guys in that 20 to 30 shot range. So I do think it's interesting. Al would have been a guy that I would have expected to be there because he has made some of those kinds of shots. And I do think Finney could be that guy. He's gotten a lot of credit for the big ones that he's made, but I think there have been some other cases. He does a good job of, kind of relocating while other guys have the ball. He did that against Nebraska. I think ended up missing the shot, but I think he does a good job of finding open space and creating an opening for himself to get shots. And Justin,
it felt like that Finney's confidence was going up too before the injury.
Totally.
Yeah. It really felt like he was getting better and better. And when people talk about, who's going to be a shooter for this team in the future or whatever, I feel like Finney is a guy that we'll be able to rely on from 3. Maybe he may not be a 42% guy, but I feel like he's somebody we'll be able to rely on. Sorry to jump in, Andy.
No, you're fine. You're not sorry either, but that's fine.
Not at all.
Even though I'm your hero or whatever you said earlier. But, so I think when you look down, it's not a team completely devoid of guys who, so again, as I kind of, be careful what you ask because you might not like the answer. This doesn't tell me that there are guys who can't make the kinds of shots that Romeo and Juwan are going to open up. I think it's a matter of confidence in a lot of cases and guys being able to, consistently step in and take and make those shots. So, I think Justin Smith, he had that great game in Minnesota. He had a few of those kinds of shots last year. He's shown that he can do that. It's just not on a consistent basis. So if somebody can do that consistently, I think the groundwork is there based on what you see. It's just a matter of seeing it a little bit more.
And I don't pin this entirely on the players. I do think that from a coaching perspective, I think some guys have green lights and some guys don't. And I think, at some point, to open up the offense and to maybe give guys confidence, you might need to push guys a little bit to shoot it and make them feel empowered to take and miss some shots. So, we focused a lot on the players here, but I do think, whatever changes that we are suggesting, some of that's going to have to come from the coaches, either in a suggestive way or in a forced way. Like, if you don't shoot it when you're open, we're going to take you out because we have got to have some more shooting for the spacing. So I want to talk about something with Romeo real quick because he has not been a guy who's very good in catch and shoot situations. I promise you he's going to get a lot more of them coming up because teams are just going to back off of him. So he's going to get them. He's got to take them. I think the shot has been a little bit better of late. It wasn't against Nebraska, but hopefully that was a one-game blip, and his shooting gets better. But I did find these 2 numbers interesting because, the thing with Romeo, with the ball in his hands, he's very dynamic. When he doesn't have the ball, he doesn't move a whole lot. He's not doing a whole lot offensively. When he does cut, on 22 possessions when he's been a cutter and received the ball and then finished the possession either with an attempt at a field goal attempt or a turnover, 22 possessions, 1.727 points per possession. That is outstanding. And that's something that I think, I know you don't want him necessarily cutting if you've got Juwan Morgan on the block and you don't want him clogging the lane. But if he can maybe find some more opportunities to quickly cut, find some spots like that, he's been really good at it because that gets him on the move in the paint where he's been very effective.
Especially because guys are going to overplay him coming to get the ball up top. That leaves a lot of room for backdoor cuts.
Exactly. And then on offensive rebounds, he has 13 offensive rebounds. On putbacks, he's at 1.46 points per possession. And that does tend to be a higher, efficiency play. But if he can get in there and get some more rebounds too, we're looking for how does Indiana get an extra 4 to 6 points per game, kind of looking at the margins. And I think these are some of the areas that stand out. So Andy, to your second question real quick, for the supporting cast, what do they do best offensively? And let me just run, down a few things here. Some of this is review from what we've talked about before. But Devontae, his best thing is in the pick and roll. In 42 possessions, 0.976 points per possession. That's in the 86th percentile nationally. That's good. Al, we talked about his spot-up shooting. That's really been the one thing that he's done well. Last year, he was better at driving to the basket. So maybe you do that a little bit more when Romeo's out. You're probably not going to have Al doing a whole lot of driving to the basket when Romeo and Juwan are in. I get that. From Justin's perspective, he's been really good in transition, really good on offensive rebounds, okay as a cutter. I think he needs to continue to keep it simple, but when he's wide open, take that shot. And then, Finney, the other thing he's done well is spot-up shooting. So when you actually look at the other players, to answer your question, what do they do well? What's the highest point per possession play? For a lot of the guys, it's their spot-up shooting. So, I think this gets us back to the main point, which is that I understand that Archie wants this team to attack the paint and be a team that uses the three-point shot judiciously, but maybe instead of doing it 19, 20, 21 times a game, you work that up to 25, 26, 27 times a game with guys who have at least shown they can make it because it's been a higher efficiency shot and for what it will do for the floor spacing.
Yeah, I think even with what you said on the attempt numbers, I'm not sure what they average. I know you kind of walked through that and had some of that in your numbers for Purdue, but I mean, a game like the Nebraska game, they only shot 14. And I think Galen's brought this up on Crimson Cast or somewhere that, the way basketball is played now, I just don't know that you can, turn away from it. And I think a lot of the inclination is to say, well, they just don't have guys who can make these shots. And some of these numbers would suggest they do. Now, again, who knows how much that happens as you go forward, and can they keep up the percentages they've shot so far? We don't know. They're all still, despite being 17 games in, pretty small sample sizes. But I think you've got to figure out how to get those guys to, to give them some opportunities, build up some confidence, stress the defense, and space the floor a little bit better. And, this would at least seem to suggest that you've got some guys who are capable of doing that. And I think the point you made about Romeo was a good one as well in terms of cutting. I mean, he is, like I said, when he moves, the whole defense reacts. So even if he's, a decoy in some of these scenarios, which I would not recommend doing a ton, but can't stand on the wing and do different things like that, has to be able to be a guy who forces the defense to shift. And that's just going to open up opportunities for others. And I think as you look at some of these catch and shoot things, there's some subtle things that guys need to do in terms of, kind of relocating as the dribbler goes to kind of get in behind their man and get in a good position where they can get an open shot. So, what those catch and shoot numbers don't necessarily say is, how open are they? Where are they at? I think Synergy has some of the stuff with closely guarded, closely guarded numbers, but again, a small sample size gets even smaller in that case. But how much can
we actually shoot better on guarded shots than unguarded, for whatever it's worth?
Small
sample size.
All right, fair enough. Yeah. But I think you look at some of those and can guys make subtle movements and move without the ball to find space to get open, to get shots that they've shown some ability to make. So I feel a little bit better having had those numbers as you saw. And I think interestingly, the Devontae stuff, where being the ball handler to pick and roll and the shooting well off the dribble probably go hand in hand a little bit. I think it's just where he's more comfortable. I think the problem with that in some ways is, it underscores some of the things that are challenging with having him really try to play the point guard, be a true point guard as you look through it that way.
Yeah, and look, I've said in the past, so I'm probably someone thinking like, well, Jared's kind of a hypocrite. He said that he agrees with Archie's strategy a lot this season, and I did for a while. It seemed to fit this personnel, and it was working. But I think now that we've gotten into Big Ten play against better defenses, we've seen how teams are really going to scout and defend Indiana. I am coming more to the side of people like Galen and others who have said that this team needs to, be a little bit more willing to take some three-pointers. I think the numbers and the eye test, I think, are showing that. So, hopefully, they have to be flexible as fans and analysts sometimes. And hopefully, who are we to, give advice to a college basketball coach? I'm sure he knows these things as well as we do. But from our vantage point, that's one thing that might help Indiana's offensive efficiency. And if we can squeeze 3, 4, 5 more points out, and the defense gets back to playing at a very good level, then I think that's going to be enough for Indiana to win its fair share of Big Ten games moving forward. All right, coming up, let's talk about social media and how we should all conduct ourselves on social media. And I'm especially talking to the irrational and unreasonable fringe because they may not be considering this unintended consequence of their insanity. We'll explore next on the Assembly Call. All right. 16 minutes.
Dang, that was long. We don't have much time left.
We got about. We'll keep this segment relatively short because we've talked about it before.
18 minutes or so, right?
Yeah, and we've got a couple good questions, so we can kind of keep this short. So Ryan, I will present it. I'll kick it over to you, and then Andy, if you have anything on it, I just want to.
Yeah, I can sit this out to a certain extent. So
I'm good.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah, some of those things that you found, weren't necessarily shocking. I was actually surprised that the catch and shoot numbers were as good as they were.
Yeah,
you don't take a lot. It's hard, and you made some early in the year. It's hard to lower those percentages. That's what's
hard. You look at
that's what's going with Fitzner.
It's like 1 to 2 shots a game for virtually everybody, which is in those situations. Not that they're only taking 1 to 2 shots a game, but
you look at Fitzner's numbers and they'd look decent if you hadn't been watching, because he went off in a couple early games and then he's done. I think since the beginning of December, he's like 2 of 11 or something.
I was just trying to look back through that. It's not good, not greit's
But before that,
it's decent if you haven't been watching. Just like the show, it's decent if you haven't been listening.
Yeah.
It's gonna be our new tagline.
Decent unless you have to watch it. All right, let's go.
Okay, Ryan's getting hungry. That's the telltale sign of Ryan's hungry.
It's already 6:51. Like we've done 51 minutes of show already.
Well, we had important things to talk about in between segments 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Welcome back to the Assembly Call. I'm Jared Morris here with Andy Bottoms and Ryan Phillips. Remember that if you are a serious IU Hoops fan, you need to be subscribed to our free IU basketball email newsletter. You will get our weekly IU news roundups, as well as our in-depth post-game analysis emails the morning after every IU game.
There's a high-level operation going on out there.
And joining is easy. Just text IU to 66866 or go to assemblycall.com. That's IU to 66866 or go to assemblycall.com.
Make no excuses.
Can we get some basketball, please?
All right, so back to talking IU basketball. And Ryan, I want to talk a little bit about social media etiquette. And before I kind of present what I want to present and give people another reason, fans another reason why they might want to consider how they're acting on social media, let me just say that, first of all, you shouldn't need another reason. Just do the right thing. Treat people decently. Don't say something on social media that you wouldn't say to someone's face. So, to a certain extent, I feel like this is kind of a ridiculous segment to have. You should just be supportive, do the right thing. But we know, and we have certainly seen it in the aftermath of the Nebraska game, that not all people do that. And that doesn't mean that you can't be critical. Don't get me wrong. We do that. You can be critical. You can critique actions, decisions, but keep it to the action and the decision. Don't make it personal and don't get unhinged. Don't be irrational. But if you do happen to need another reason to do this, Monday or Tuesday morning after the Nebraska loss, this tweet came out from India Franklin, who is Armand Franklin's mother. She said, working on growing thicker skin for next year, with a bunch of emojis, like the shrug shoulders emoji, the eyeball emoji, and then a funny little cat gif where the cat put its hand over its face. And then in the replies to that was Sarita Brooks, Keon Brooks' mother, saying, yes, they're showing no mercy. And then Ms. Franklin saying, no mercy at all. And the point that I want to make with this, Ryan, is not that I don't think recruits' parents are necessarily making a decision based on this, but they are seeing it. So to all the IU fans out there who think that they have the best interests of the program in mind by coming unhinged after a loss because no excuses and blah, 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 and standards and all this stuff, just remember that you being completely irrational and angry and all of the other things that we see, recruits, their parents, players, coaches, families are seeing this stuff. So maybe just think about that before you hit send the next time on a crazy tweet.
Yeah, I mean, a disrespectful fan base that goes after players and says things like, I mean, early in the year, we heard about players on this team, and we heard it some last year. It was like, oh, you should have a scholarship revoked and all this stuff. They're paying attention. Like, these kids on this team see those things. They all read message boards. They all are on social media. They all look at this stuff. You think that these kids' parents don't search their names after games or don't search what people from Indiana's fan base are doing? What about kids who haven't made a decision? You think they want to send their kids into a situation where they're going to be attacked constantly if they have a bad game? They don't want that. And people, there are people out there who say, oh, it's ridiculous. They don't pay attention to this stuff. You're wrong. I know firsthand you're wrong from people. They absolutely pay attention to that stuff. And by the way, if they like a coach, you think they're going to want to hear that in his second year, he should be fired because of a game in early January? They don't want to hear that. They want, if they're committing to a coach, they want a coach who's going to be there for 4 years. And I told this story on Banner Monday, but Greg Oden for a long time really wanted to go to IU, and he really liked Mike Davis. He didn't go to IU because Mike Davis had no support at IU, and people didn't like Mike Davis, and he was afraid that he was going to commit to Mike Davis, and then Mike Davis was going to be gone. And so if you think that this kind of stuff doesn't impact players, you always hear people say, you know what, pick a school for a school. Don't pick a school for the coaches or the basketball program or anything. That's insane. Because, yeah, you should pick the school you think is going to give you the best education, but you know those personal relationships with the coaches and other players and all that stuff is part of the decision. It's human nature to be part of the decision. So for anyone out there who says this is ridiculous, they don't pay attention, they don't care, you're wrong. You're 100% wrong. And I do know for a fact it's something that people consider because they don't want to have – everybody has a bad night, has a bad game, whatever. They don't want to, feel threatened or feel – like they're being attacked for playing a bad game of basketball. So put this in perspective, people. It's a game. We do this. This is our livelihood, part of our livelihood. We have fun with it, and we love this show. But you'll never see us attack a player online. You'll never. I can critique a player if he makes a bad play, but I'm not going to say he's horrible and attack him personally and all of that stuff. You can critique plays, of course, and you can critique coaches. But if you come unhinged, people are watching it. People are paying attention, and it does matter. And if you don't think it does, you'd have no idea what you're talking about because it does. So
yeah,
I would just say, as Jared said, don't say something you wouldn't say to that person's face. And honestly, quite frankly, don't say something that's not going to get you punched in the face if you say it to somebody in person.
And this isn't to say that, the players and their families are delicate little snowflakes and they're in the corner and they can't handle this stuff. No, like these people are tough, and we know because I've talked with parents. We talked with Yogi's mom a lot, and she could absolutely handle criticism of Yogi's play, and in fact be one of the first people to criticize Yogi's play. But when it got beyond that, now you're talking about it's going to the next level. And so look, the whole point here...
It's not about critiquing certain plays or any of that. It's the overarching, this dude shouldn't even be on the team. Or
yes,
this guy should, he should be gone. They should force him to transfer. They should, Archie should be fired. It's almost 2 years and this team isn't where it needs to be yet. Like, are you insane? Like, just stop. I realize we're all upset they lost to Nebraska and it was a bad showing. But bad nights happen. It's a game, folks. It's a game. We love it, and it's part of our lives, and it's important to us, but it's a game. Relax. That's all. If it's not, and we've said this a million times on here, if it's not bringing you joy and you're not having fun watching it, you're doing it wrong, and you should probably leave it behind because it's going to cause you to die a few years early if it's really just causing you heartburn. Like, just let it go because this is supposed to be fun and entertaining, and it's supposed to be a great opportunity for these kids. And that's really where the focus should be. Yeah, we all want to win. We all want to win. It's great when you win. But when you lose, put it in perspective. It's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, and look, we've talked about this before, so I don't want to belabor it. Andy, if you want to come in and say anything, I just wanted to bring up kind of this new angle so that, again, if any of you need a selfish IU-centric reason to not hit send, just know that the recruit that you're all hoping comes, his mom is reading all of these crazy tweets and taking notice of them. Not saying it's going to change the decision, but just know that it's being read and ingested, and somewhere in there, it's having some kind of an impact.
And one last thing, if you ever type out a tweet and you have a second in your mind where you think, should I send this? The answer is
don't.
Every single time. It's the same as with an email or something like that. You're like, is this a good idea? If you think that, then no, it is not a good idea. Hang up, shut your computer down. You're done.
Or just sit on it until the morning. You could always send it in the morning if you rethink it and think it's okay, but just maybe, cool it for a minute.
Yeah. Take a breath.
Yeah. Andy, I know you get a lot of hate on social media with your bracket projections.
Not too bad. I've befriended a handful of fan bases over the course of time. I mean, the bracketology stuff is kind of funny because somebody else was another person who does it was tweeted something else about it this week where it's like people do that, like people who do bracketology do it for fun. Most, if not all, are not getting much, if any, money about it, and it's like everybody, you're just trying to project what other people are doing, and people are so angry at you, like you hate their team. Like it doesn't really matter to me. I'm trying to do well in a contest and get it right as to who actually makes it. So,
but you do hate Syracuse and actively try and suppress their seeding.
I've gotten over the course of time, I've gotten a lot of interviews with Syracuse people as a result of their perpetual state of being on the bubble. So I can't really, those all seem like fine people. So it's now I just think, and it's something that I think is difficult as you look back over how you viewed fandom and things like that as you were, as we were younger. We were all a lot more, quick to fire off something like that and to say things. And I think life at a certain point gives you a perspective that Ryan said, it is just a game. It's, it's just not worth getting that upset about. And as we've said many times, oftentimes doing the show kind of lets you process. For us, it helps us, kind of process our emotions, get our thoughts out, and then move on from it. And I think, whatever you need to do to be able to kind of process your emotions of the game is fine. I can't say what's best for everybody, but I do think, as you think about some of those things, it definitely just keeping it all in perspective as to, who this is that we're talking about and what they're going through, and the likelihood that they don't know that they made a mistake or didn't play well. It's, it's kind of like Christmas Vacation where Clark drives the car under the thing of the logs. Clark, we're under a truck. Do you honestly think I don't know that? It's kind of the same. It's kind of the same concept. I think they know when things are going well and not well.
I gotta watch that movie again. Oh my god,
that was good stuff, Andy. Good stuff. So yeah, be decent, be rational, or be reasonable, or just don't be on social media at all. All right, coming up in our final segment, we're going to answer your questions with whatever time we have left, including what we need to see on Saturday to feel good about IU's performance and which currently struggling Hoosier most needs to get himself going. We will discuss. That's next. Stick with us. All right, 10:49.
What do we got left?
Whoa.
4 minutes? 5?
We have, let's see, we are currently at 47:29, so that gives us, roughly 4 minutes, so we can hit these questions quickly. We got about, 4:31, so it's probably 4:36. So, we got 4 minutes, and then we'll need to do the outro. So we can hit these two questions in that amount of time.
Oh, yeah, which one? Yeah, let me...
So let's do, the two that I teased are... Okay, what do we need to see Saturday? So
even if they lose, what would make you feel good about it?
Yeah, the most important bench player. So I'll go to you, Ryan, with the first one, and then Andy to you with the second one. And we can all chime in if there's time.
Okay.
Just try and keep the answers short. And we have I want to know how many weeks in a row we have a question about why isn't Clifton Moore playing? I mean, granted, it's a more reasonable question now, but it's still... I mean, look, here's all we need to know about the season for everybody who, doesn't want to add any nuance to the conversation. Imagine if at the beginning of the year we said in the middle of January, in the toughest stretch of the season, one of the biggest questions is going to be, why isn't Clifton Moore playing more? Now, you could have taken that one way to say, like, well, maybe he really developed and he has gotten better. But this is kind of where we're at, is that these are the real debates. He is not a guy that was supposed to be a major part of the rotation. Kudos to him for making an impact when he's gotten in there, but it also shows you where the depth of this team is right now. So,
I mean, Race Thompson was supposed to be the guy at this point of the season. You were probably saying, like, hey, man, why isn't he starting?
Also, good shooter.
Yeah, guy can step out on the floor.
Hey, you guys might not have heard, but you're not allowed to have opinions on these guys because they haven't actually played.
Oh, yeah.
No, right. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, that'd be a good, good preview. What if this is a new 30 for 30. What if I told you that IU fans would be clamoring for Clifton Moore to play more midway through the season?
Yeah, he's just not ready defensively to do the things that Archie wants.
I do think they should use him more.
I do too.
Especially with teams with a lot of length.
And not
you have to
not super experienced guys in the post. I mean, I think I don't know which thing I was listening to you on this week, Jared, but it was something about at a certain point. I think it must have been podcast.
I'm overexposed.
Yeah, well,
been saying it for months.
But I think it must have been podcast on the brink. I'm guessing, but you guys kind of had the conversation of these guys might not be ready defensively, but do you just need a little something offensively that you have to be willing to sacrifice and know there's going to be some mistakes. Now, it's one thing if you're a guy who's making mistakes on the perimeter and a guy's still taking a relatively difficult shot. It's another if you're making mistakes on things inside and giving up layups. But
the only the catch-22 of it is the only way he's going to get better is by playing more. You can do it 1,000 times in practice.
Is that totally true? I mean, at some point you got to show it in practice. I mean, you can get better at defensive fundamentals in practice.
No, I agree, but I'm saying like the only way he's going to perform better in a game, like long term, is if he actually does it in a game. Now, you can get better in practice, no question about it, but when you step on that floor, when you have as little experience as he does, when you step on that floor, it's a whole different thing. It's one thing when you're like a veteran.
And things are going faster when you're on the court and, for his awareness and everything.
When you played, like you've averaged like 10 minutes a game, you can work on stuff in practice, then come in and implement it. When you've basically never played, it's a completely different world on the court and off. So I just think he needs to get settled into actually playing. But his length is valuable. I especially think against the team that if it's out rebounding you by a ton, just put him out there and see what happens.
He gets us some of those secret points or extra points on the offensive rebounds. He comes in with that activity. Those points are important. So I'm of the belief now that especially in certain situations, especially without Duran, he gives us a little bit more than he takes off the table right now with the defense. So I agree. I'd like to see him play a little bit more.
All right,
I thought he earned it against Nebraska. Okay, Ryan has got to eat, dadgummit.
Seriously, I'm going to start chewing this microphone.
Yeah,
it's gonna be weird.
We only do the show every day every week at the exact same time. He could plan ahead and eat prior to the show.
I'm not going to eat at like 5:15. I'm not 74.
Maybe a light snack. Maybe go that route.
Okay, here we go.
Roll it.
I gotta stop laughing first. All right, here we go. You are listening to the Assembly Call. We are wrapping up another week of talking IU basketball. I am Jared Morris here with Andy Bottoms and Ryan Phillips. And guys, let's jump right into the questions here. We've got a short final segment. Ryan, this question comes from Josiah. A 4-game losing streak is never fun. Neither is losing to Purdue. But if we do lose on Saturday, what signs do you need to see from Archie and the players in order to feel okay about the loss? Is it even possible to feel okay about a loss at Purdue?
Yeah, I mean, look, you're never okay with the loss. I'm not in the moral victory group, but the group of people who believes in them. But I do think there's ways you can take positives from a loss. Not the overall positive of feeling great about it, but you can see positive developments in a loss and build on them. Certainly. I think that, and I guess it would be like the Arkansas game where you feel bad that you lost, but you realize there are reasons why that were kind of out of IU's control, and there were certain things about it that felt decent. What I would say, I think, for this one is, A, they got to get the rebounding under control. B, they are willing to pull the trigger on some more threes. And what I would really want is just a team that's engaged for 40 minutes and it doesn't suffer any of these huge lapses we've seen. Because when this team plays its best, it can beat anybody on its schedule. Legit. Maybe other than Duke, it could beat every team on its schedule if it's engaged for 40 minutes. And I just think that that's the biggest problem right now. So I just want to see a team that plays hard for 40 minutes, plays engaged, plays smart, and plays the way it's capable of. And we haven't seen that much this year.
At a minimum, that could get the worst of the taste of Monday night out of
Exactly.
our mouths.
And you can build on that. Say like, okay, we lost on the road against a tough team, but there were a lot of positives here. And so I think that's what you're really going to be looking for.
Yep. All right, Andy, this is from Bill. Who is the most important bench player and currently underperforming starter to help IU turn the season around offensively? Kind of harkens back to segment 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think so there's 2 different questions. So bench performer and underperforming starter. For the starter, I guess I'll go with Rob Finney, although he wasn't starting the last game, but I do think him getting back to the form that he was starting to show before he got the concussion, I think is going to be really important. Gives the team a little bit more stability at the point guard and allows Devontae to play, in my eyes, in a way that is going to allow him to be more successful. And bench player, I'm going to take the easy one is probably McRoberts. Is that who you're saying is the easy one?
Nope.
Clifton Moore?
Nope.
Deron Davis?
Nope.
We're running out of bench players.
It's Evan Fitzner. He needs to shoot. That's the whole reason we brought him onto the team. He needs to stretch the floor. Evan Fitzner is the biggest underperforming bench guy. Because the one thing he could do, like if he was terrible on defense, at least you'd be getting him in and he could spread the floor for you and it would open things up on offense. Right now, he's offering nothing. And he is the biggest underperformer on the team. And maybe it's not his fault. Maybe he just is not fit for this role, whatever. But that's a guy who we've seen what he can do when he's on, and he's not doing it. That's my answer. I thought that was an open and shut case. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought that was an open and shut case. Boom, over, done. There you go.
Maybe. The reason I brought up the other 2 were more because energy and getting some putbacks give you, if he can get a couple putbacks, easy baskets each game, I think that helps. And again, we're trying to find 4 points a game, as we said earlier.
Yep. All righty, well, that is going to have to do it for us on this week's episode of the Assembly Call. If you ever want to see us do the show live, join us
and the chat mob
at assemblycall.com on Thursday nights for the live broadcast of our Assembly Call radio recording. And you can always subscribe to our podcast by searching for Assembly Call wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget, go to assemblycall.com or text IU to 66866 to join our free email newsletter. Thank you for listening. We'll be back on Saturday for the IU Purdue postgame show. Until then, keep your elbows in and your eyes on the rim. And go Hoosiers.
Thank everybody for coming out.
All right, I got to get out of here, folks. Thank you.
There we go. Well done.
And then I was going to say that on McRoberts, I do think there's, I just don't know whether he can get back to what he was last year, but I really think having another guy defensively who's really locked in can help, stem the tide in some of these runs. And he made, a couple good hustle plays on Monday night, but, got to be able to, step up and take shots. So
Ryan,
I thought there were a number of reasonable answers, but
there were
apparently there was only one. San Diego chicken.
Only one answer to that question. I'm sorry. Did it not make sense though? Quite frankly,
no, you made sense. I just was
sense.
saying it wasn't the only answer.
Yeah,
okay. I just think that he changes the equation off the bench. Like he really does change the equation off the bench, and you need him to start doing that.
Also, I just want to congratulate the chat mob for just absolutely ignoring everything that we were just talking about and going on a random tangent about bocce ball and whether Ryan's girlfriend, the user Ryan's girlfriend that's in the post-game chat, they're wondering why that user doesn't come on Thursday nights, and they postulated that perhaps Ryan's girlfriend is with Dan Dakich on Thursday nights.
No, she lives in
This is where they're not talking about your real girlfriend. They're talking about. I don't know if we're supposed to talk about that on air, so I apologize. No. But the Ryan's girlfriend chat user. So that was a solid tangent.
Yeah, nice job, guys.
So I hope the podcast folks appreciate that segment because I don't think anybody in the chat mob was listening to it. That's okay. It's nothing.
Oh, that really wasn't.
That was well-worn territory.
That wasn't really poor etiquette, was it? They weren't listening. I feel like that's unrelated to the social media topic that you brought up.
Oh man.
I feel like we're fair game, but it's just we're trying. Yeah,
Oh man.
Who knows? Oh well. All right.
So who all is everybody in for Saturday?
Yeah,
You guys
should
all?
be.
Yep.
Unless something comes up, but yeah, I'm planning on being in.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll be there. 2:00 tip. Is that right?
2 Eastern.
Eastern,
Gus Johnson. So law of Gus. That should work in our favor.
Well,
Wait, is
Gus
it
will
on
keep the
Fox
game
Sports?
close.
Yep.
I think
It's
it's
on
on like
Fox.
actual
on
Fox.
Fox.
not
Actual
Sports
Fox,
One.
yeah.
Yep. Gus, Jim Jackson, and Andy Katz, I think.
Andy Katz, I think.
Oh, Andy. Just kidding.
Whatever.
Just messing with Andy.
Not sure who you were referring to there.
It's the
Not
ambiguity
you.
that
I
makes
meant
it fun.
Andy Katz.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly worse guys they could have had. I mean, he's no Tim Brando, but what are you gonna do?
Oh my God, they really got to pull Tim Brando off the broadcast.
He seriously. I mean, like, I get it. He's like reached a certain status, I guess, and he's done a lot of games, but man, he is mailing it in.
Where you just just phone it in. It needs to be like a cartoon situation where one of those like giant shepherd hooks just kind of comes in and just takes him out from the side.
Chad wants to get your official ruling on Saturday 2:00 start times.
It's early. That's early. I don't like it.
We've still never gotten back to this. I joke one time when I hosted that I wanted Ryan to spend an entire segment power ranking date time combinations of games that were acceptable.
But
I feel like it would be a short
we need
segment.
to do that.
Maybe in a bad post.
I feel like it would be a short segment. Well,
no, that's for
that would
the
have been
off
Monday,
season.
so
That's an off-season one. Okay.
In the off season, we need to get more creative with power ranking stuff. By the way, I was hoping. I just want you to know this will be the last thing we talk about. I came prepared in my intro because I said that you fell all the way to 12th in the Chat Mob fan vote, but I thought that you would wonder who all was ranked ahead of you.
I did notice that you went to the effort of that in there because I
wanted to be prepared.
It wasn't directed. And I was like,
ignored
12?
it. When I heard 12th, I was like, no.
Yeah, 12th. So here are all the people that are currently ahead of you in the fan vote. Coach is number 1, of course. Andy, me, Big Easy, Chronic, Ben Ladner, Galen, Alex Bozich for his few appearances, Michael Dugan, Will DeWitt, and then there was a write-in vote for Tom Crean's press conference.
Nobody likes
and
Will.
Then you.
No one likes Will more than me. Come on. That guy.
By the way, Will is going to host the Michigan State game, the Michigan State show.
Oh, is he? Awesome.
Well, we need someone who can like set up Zoom. I don't know how much he's stayed up on things, so I don't think he's prepared to give a lot of analysis, but he'll be here with some guest hosts who we're working on finalizing.
Well, it's funny because like some of you guys who are newer don't remember that when Will was on, my whole thing was just running him down, like joking. Obviously,
he was so nervous to be on shows.
I know, and it was like all I would do is like he'd start talking. I'd be like, "Whoa, Will, the adults are talking. It's okay. You need just step aside, son." Like it was just it was all in good fun, but there was some hazing going on because he was new, and yeah.
And he's never
to
been
his
back,
credit.
so otherwise,
to his credit, he took that coaching. He launched his own Bears show that was doing so well and got on the Bears' radar that they gave him a cease and desist for using their name and logo. And it wasn't the exact logo, but even the colors. And he handled it like a pro. They switched it. Their show was awesome, by the way.
What's their show name now? I haven't seen I saw them
like the Chicago Audible, I think.
Gotcha. I hadn't seen the rename. I saw the whole thing with the cease and desist, but I hadn't seen it when they renamed it. So
yeah. So kudos to him. That was a rough situation to deal with. But he's done a good job. He's done a really good job with it. So if there are any Bears fans watching, you should definitely check out Will's show because he's awesome. Aaron says, why not do a post-game show at Galen's house like you did last year? It's a little bit different because the game is on a Saturday. It's mid-afternoon, and we're going to be at the game. We want to hang out with everybody.
Our game was on a Friday last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, the game was on a Friday.
We did this show on a Saturday, though.
Saturday morning.
Right, we did it on a Saturday, but because it was the game with senior speeches, we didn't need to have a show right afterwards. This game, there aren't senior speeches. We need to have a show right after it ends. And we can't broadcast live from Assembly Hall until Fish's show is over. So if we're going to be at the game, I can't run up and do it from the media seat. So we need someone who's outside of the arena to set it up, start it, and host it.
Typically, when we do that, we wind up having somebody guest host anyway. I mean, we've done that a couple times.
We've always done it with our interns, but they're both going to be at the game. And my goal, like my philosophy with the interns is I never want to give them an assignment that keeps them from a game if they want to be there.
Yeah, of course.
And Ben and Seth and Michael, they all have good tickets and they want to be at the game, so we couldn't have them do it. So Will's a professional. He won't.
Way to make Will feel really good by saying that you were the 11th option.
Choice.
He knows. No, Will. I mean, Will is awesome, man. I call Will in my hours of need, and he comes through. So we'll I've been talking with some people about getting him on. So
we'll have dinner with Will when we're there. Yeah.
Yeah, Will's he's
coming.
like Josh Smith, always part of the IU family, except he actually was part of the family at one point. But
God, I forget those years. I really do.
He's always part of the IU family. So good.
But he actually was. So
Yeah.
All right, here, quick. Let's see how far back you remember. Do you remember who our first intern was? Very first intern.
It was Zach Grapper.
Yeah, Zach Grapper.
Yeah.
That's right.
Sorry, that took me a minute, but yeah, I couldn't think of the last.
Although when we first started the show, Tyler Jaranovich was screening calls for us.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
He was doing the Lord's
By the
work.
way, having a call-in show was such a bad idea.
No, it was a great idea.
I like
but
that, despite the fact that we have not taken calls for many years, that we've really stuck with the original name to.
Well, we've branded ourselves, Andy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else would we call it?
I'm not suggesting we should have changed. I'm just saying that that was. Hey,
it gives the name credibility. That the first 2 years, I guess it was the first. Yeah, the first 2 years.
Was it really 2 years that we took calls? Yeah.
Maybe not. No, I think
at one point we got
to be fair, it's hard to tell given the low number of actual calls that came in.
Yeah. Well, at one point I remember
it's hard to really say whether we stopped taking them or they just stopped coming. But
we got one random prank call once, and I was like, Jared, we need to talk. And I was like, because I've listened to Howard Stern long enough to know that eventually prank callers are going to find you and just harass you until you no longer let them go.
Yeah. Well, and I would have to literally leave the show so I wouldn't hear what you guys were saying to go screen the caller real quick and then pop back in, and it was, Anyway,
you probably didn't miss anything. Don't worry about it.
It's just Andy and I talking. Come on,
Brian's being stupid again.
Okay. Yeah. Well, everybody get a good night's sleep, and let's come ready to go on Saturday. It's going to be a hell of a ball game.
I'm going to.
Jared will even put on actual clothes and not wear his pajamas to the postgame show.
Yeah, thanks, Saturday.
See, it's the difference. Last I was wearing a collared shirt. I was the same shirt that I wore Monday for the Nebraska game, which really I should have burned as soon as that game ended. So maybe that's why this show went off the rails.
It was your shirt's fault.
Hey, you know what? We don't know that it wasn't. That's my thought on sports superstition stuff.
Yeah, I'm not one to be superstitious, but it was clearly your shirt.
Yeah.
I'm not one for burning clothing, but it was definitely your shirt's fault. All right. I got to go, guys. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for watching.
We'll see you guys on Saturday.
All right. Later, guys.